watching In the Loop. This is the weekly theme park news show brought to you by Park Rush. I'm Tom. Joining me, as ever, is Josh.
Hello there.
Hello there, Josh. How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
I'm not too bad. I'm very keen to hear more about your parents' experience of Disney World, where they have just returned from. I
Yeah.
understand that they've got some souvenirs that they've sort of loaned to the podcast for sharing purposes, which is
Yes.
very nice of them indeed. What have you got there, Josh? What kind of visual props have you brought? It's like
So
show and tell.
yeah, something that definitely had to be was on my list of things that I'd like them to have got, and most people have these days. But it's the Coca-Cola bottles.
Yep.
I really like the Diet Coke one. I think the Diet Coke one looks more like a grenade than the than the regular Coke. 'Cause
Yes.
the grey
Yes.
effect on it is really cool. So there's those. What else did I get? I got. They went on one of those went to one of those DVC event like room things that you can go to, and they try and sell you on the Disney Vacation Club. And they got my brother gave him a load of spiel and walked away with a DVC members badge.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Yep.
Friends in high places, obviously.
Yeah, they didn't become members of the DVC, but there you go. Got a lovely little. Got a copy of the Epcot Food and Wine Festival passport. So it's got all of
Is that still going on?
Yes, July 14th to November 19th.
Oh, this is food and wine.
Food and
Sorry,
wine.
not garden. That's what
No,
I was there
yes.
for.
Not Flower and Garden. No.
Yeah.
I really like this passport. I've never seen one of these in person before, but as a little booklet of the different food items around the park, I think it's really cool.
Nice.
It's a nice touch. And then finally, obviously it's 50th anniversary. They looked high and wide to get me a decent 50th anniversary cap, as we have discussed previously. There basically are none. So instead, I got a 50th anniversary Disney Rubik's Cube.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could bounce that on your head, I suppose. Attach it to an existing cap. You can look like some sort of quirky toy store salesman or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got Mickey Mouse, and it's got Minnie and Donald and Chip and Dale, Pluto and Goofy on it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I probably won't open it actually, because I quite like it in its completed state in the 50th anniversary box. It's quite smart. So yeah. So that's
okay.
the various Disney gifts that I got. Very
Excellent.
pleased.
Well, exciting news too to share that whilst we finally finished the Florida trip reports based on my trip last week or the week before, we have something of a bonus to come. Your parents, unbeknownst to me, I don't know if it was also unbeknownst to you, until they got back, had gone armed with notebooks ready to report back themselves. So you're going to record a podcast with them next week.
Yeah.
I guess the parents, the boomer guide to Walt Disney World.
Yeah. So very much getting their whole entire take on how they go about the holiday. We don't stay on site, so the villa. So kind of cover that a bit, cover their experiences on eateries, both in and outside of the parks that you could potentially go to. How they compare it to previous years when they've gone. But they went armed, both of them armed with notebooks, taking down different. My dad was very much fact-based, like these are the rides we went on, these are, how long we queue for things, our thoughts on those. And then my mum was sort of general themes of, and like kind of periphery items like the disability pass and that sort of thing. So
Nice.
got a wide range of notes going on. It's quite impressive.
That sounds like a couple of podcasts worth of stuff, or one kind of Lord of the Rings esque epic. So
Yes, we'll see how it goes, I guess.
exactly, we'll see how it goes. Here on In the Loop, we strive to keep things to around about half an hour and don't tick too long over that. As I say, this is the weekly theme park news show that we do here at Park Rush. It's doubling up as the main podcast as well for a couple of weeks here, owing to other busyness going on in broader life beyond Park Rush. But we hope to deliver a fine show regardless. If you're new here, welcome along. Perhaps consider liking the video if you enjoy the show and subscribing as well. And if you're a returning fan, thanks very much for being here. It means a lot. You can keep up with the show, links.parkrush.com, best place for all the socials. The Patreon is also there if you want an audio version of this podcast, or of this show rather. That is the place to go for that, as well as early access to our travel vlogs, which are currently going out from our recent European theme park road trip. So do have a look at those as well. They're coming out every week right now. But without further ado, let's get into this week's news, Josh. And I'm feeling very highbrow this week because I've pulled something from the Wall Street Journal.
Oh.
I know. They're talking about like economics and stuff. I'm very confused. I'm going to need some assistance here to understand this.
Okay.
Also, worth noting that, of course, the Wall Street Journal is behind a paywall. So I give thanks to the fine individual on the Walt Disney World subreddit who thought to hell with this and just put it up as an archive link for everyone to read.
Good. Gotta support that in their every endeavour.
Well, it's a cost of living crisis, Josh. You can't expect everyone to afford a Wall Street Journal subscription.
Absolutely.
So this is kind of a broad piece, I would say, which is very much written in a way that can be understood and appreciated by people who don't keep up with theme parks at all. Generally around how theme park pricing, specifically at Disney World, has really gone through the roof, and how Disney have managed to post these extraordinary profits, specifically at the parks, despite the fact that attendance remains below pre-pandemic levels. And so it goes into a lot of detail about the various things that have gone up in price, and how there is clearly a growing tension between the guests and the price points. And it seems to me like right now they're still getting away with the prices as they are. Guests are begrudgingly paying up to have these experiences, but the tone of the article is very much kind of how much longer is this going to last? Is the bubble going to burst at some point?
Well,
from the perspective of kind of people who keep up with this a little bit more regularly and have talked about this stuff plenty on the podcast, there were a couple of quotes that stood out to me in the article that I wanted to kind of raise, specifically from Josh DeBarro, who is now, of course, the chairman of Disney Parks Experiences, etc., having previously headed up just Disney World and Disneyland. And I guess, Josh, he was kind of considered, a lot of people saw him as one of us,
yes.
Among the Disney fandom. And perhaps since he's taken this role, people are starting to realise, oh, maybe he is just another man in a suit.
He's one of them.
Right? Yeah, he's one of them. Exactly. Yeah, absolute power corrupts absolutely, Josh.
It's true.
The way things are. So basically, he's very much towing the company line so far as, dude, why is it so expensive? There are a few quotes in here, as I say. There's one from a mysterious Disney spokeswoman, I should specify, who says their pricing right now is determined purely by supply and demand, no different than airplanes, hotels, or cruise ships. Now, I guess we'll get into this a little bit more next week on the podcast that your parents partake in, but
yeah,
what were kind of their broad thoughts on the cost of things? I mean, I think it's been, even 20 years ago, you go to Disney World, you're going to anticipate spending more for things there than you would spend for things anywhere else, of course.
Yeah.
You pay the markup, you pay the premium because you're confident you're going to have a good time, good memories, etc. And that was still the case for me this year. I'm not going to deny that. But you're feeling it more and more, the prices. You're kind of raising your eyebrows higher and higher at some of the prices. What would your parents take on this? Would they buy the supply and demand argument, do you think, or were they walking around thinking, "Blimey neck"?
Uh, so, so they thought it was very busy. So there is that sort of supply and demand issue, I guess, there. But at the same time, they're not walking around going, "Well, this is pretty reasonable for the supply and demand there is out there." They're going,
Yeah.
"This is bloody expensive," and also, this park is nowhere near as good as it used to be. Spoilers for next week's podcast, but yes, the prices remain high, but the experience is a shadow of its former self, is their opinion.
Oh,
Yes.
well, there's a little tease for you, everyone. That's the thing. Whenever I hear big corporations talk about or try to justify price hikes, right?
Yeah.
They always kind of sort of do a little nod and a wink to the everyday financial concerns of ordinary people. But it always comes across very disconnected from reality. And,
Yes.
potentially the hardships that people are facing in other parts of their life. There's a good example this week, as of recording. People may have noticed that the PlayStation 5 is going up in price in basically everywhere around the world, apart from the US.
Yeah.
And there was a line in their announcement blog post from which said something along the lines of, "Oh, you will have noticed things are getting more expensive in your daily life, or you may have noticed." And blah, blah, blah.
Really?
That's why we've decided to raise the price of the PS5. And it's like, you may be struggling to afford your food and your fuel and your electricity bills. And it's this environment which has led us to decide that, yes, we also need to make perhaps your one form of positive escapism also cost way more money. Oh, thanks, Mr. PlayStation. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad you appreciate the concerns and the hardships I'm facing and have decided to, take this, this one carrot on a stick that was being dangled there for me to think, oh, these are hard times. Maybe I'll be able to pick up a PlayStation and at some point, and give myself something to look for. Oh, no, it's 50 quid more expensive all of a sudden. Great,
Yeah.
thanks.
It's an interesting
And
one
that's
because kind of slightly separately, but that's an interesting one because obviously Xbox can then just come out and go, because they're owned by Microsoft, so they've got loads of money. They can just go, "Nah, we're not raising the price," and then it plays into Microsoft's hands there. So it's a interesting dynamic that.
Well, it goes back to the point I made about Disney, right? And the overall take of this article, which is, well, they're going to raise the prices and they're trying to hit that sweet spot of like they're constantly trying to work out what's the maximum we can get away with, right? And I
Yeah.
think the calculation that Disney have made is all these prices we've raised, we can get away with it. How much higher can they go, and can we still get away with it? And the calculation that Sony have made with the PlayStation 5 is, okay, this isn't a great look initially, but do we think that demand is going to stay there and people will still pay up for this console? And the conclusion they've clearly come to is yes. I think, frankly, they probably are kicking themselves, and I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft do this as well. They probably could have launched their consoles at a higher price and gotten away with it. So this is almost them testing the water, I suppose, in that way.
Yeah.
And with Disney, I think it's very much the same. And I think every big corporation does exactly the same thing. They'll talk about how much they love their customers and in some cases their fans, who see themselves as more than the average customer. But ultimately, they're just trying to rinse you for as much as they can. Another quote in this article, which is from Josh D'Amaro specifically, he says the changes they've made, so he's talking about things like Genie Plus specifically here, which of course has turned into a massive cash cow for them. The changes have given visitors more choice about how to spend their time and money at the parks, while at the same time making the parks extremely commercially successful.
I'm not sure that's true, but
Genie Plus, does that give you more choice? I think it absolutely does not.
I think it does the very opposite, actually.
Does it literally give you the choice to spend more money? I guess yes, it does.
Yeah.
It's something that you can now pay for that you didn't have to before.
It's a thing that you almost have to pay for because of how the market is, right? So you're not. Your choice is to not go on the rides or suck it up and pay the money to go on the rides.
Exactly.
That's your choice, which is not a great choice.
Yeah, 100%. That was very much the experience we had with the GD service this year. It was not a positive decision, It was a decision of circumstance, and ultimately the conclusion you come to justify it to yourself is, well, we've paid X amount to be here. Wouldn't it suck if, having done that, we don't get to go on everything that we want to go on? Therefore, let's pay another X amount to at least, and again, and that doesn't even guarantee, by the way, that you're going to get on everything. It does, on balance, probably give you a better chance of seeing more stuff, but it's still no guarantee. But the fact that you feel obliged to do it, I think, is a serious problem.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's a shame. Another line here from Josh.
Not me.
He claims to be aware of the tension caused by rising prices and other changes, especially for annual pass holders, who are, of course, among the most kind of loyal and vocal and passionate fans.
Yeah.
But he describes it as an inevitable result of progress and insists that every change Disney has implemented at the parks is in service of improving visitors' trips. All right, mate. Whatever.
Yeah, cool.
Not sure I'm buying that, to be frank. So, yeah, there you go. Look, inflation is, of course, it affects everyone. I'm not denying that. But there's a big difference between how it will impact. I mean, look, again, in this theme park bubble, ultimately everyone who's interested in theme parks enough to listen to theme park podcasts and stuff and goes to theme parks on a semi-regular basis, they are not at all close to being the worst off people in society. So let's make that clear first of all. Yeah. But even for those people, there's a big difference between how inflation impacts them and how inflation impacts a company like Disney. Do Disney actually need to raise the prices to the extent that they are to make up for the impact of inflation? I just, it's hard for people to stomach, right? Because they're posting these enormous profits all the time, and the guests don't really see any of that. It's all about the shareholders at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also a very different era in terms of the leadership at the company, right? Because, all right, people may not like. I think there are serious issues with consolidation in all industries and big companies snapping up other companies. But I guess Bob Iger, one thing he would say about his tenure was, yeah, we were making massive profits and I was reinvesting it into, the parks, our film output, launching Disney Plus, acquiring all these other big companies and stuff like that. Yeah. They're now in very much a penny pinching mindset under Bob Chapek, whereby they're still making massive profits, but it's not really feeding back into anything so far as the paying customers can see. Everything's just getting more expensive without, a real clear benefit to them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a difficult one. But again, I think they are yet to hit the point where they've raised the prices to a point where it's really having a negative impact on attendance or a PR. So I think these prices are going to keep going up until they feel like they really have gone as far as they can. And I would probably estimate that there's still a way for them to go before they get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it is having an impact. You talk to my parents, you listen to the unofficial Disney Dish podcast with Len Tester, and he's just describes a similar experience to how my parents came away from Disney. That actually a lot of people going home, spent loads of money, spent an exorbitant amount of money going from the UK to Florida for the first time maybe, and then they go back and people ask them how it was, and everyone's kind of like not as high on Disney as they used to be. Kind of more, yeah, it was good, but not necessarily the experience that you expect or you used to get or whatever. So I think it is impacting them, but not not in a you know global, widespread sort of way. It's like a silent, quiet revolution, as it were.
Really, I almost feel like it's the opposite. I think it's a very vocal subset of people that would make you feel like these parks are on the brink of the pitchforks and torches coming out. Whereas I think really most people are kind of pottering along, thinking, yeah, all this stuff is expensive, but ultimately I want to be here and take pictures for my Instagram, and I'm here with my kids, and I'm having a good enough time.
I think the vocal. There's always that vocal minority, but I think from families that are going away, I think they're having, and but then they don't listen to podcasts. They don't watch videos on Disney or whatever, and the parents are coming away going, I've just spent 10, 20 grand on this holiday, and it hasn't lived up to the expectations that have been put upon it. I think and it's not a big thing, and it's not something you'll hear because it's that those people aren't in the industry. But I think it's something that's slowly growing. But I don't think it will stop anyone because people often go, well, that's your opinion. I still want to go, and people are still going, right?
Yeah, yeah. I would definitely recommend people read this article in full. There are some nice case studies in there. People have spoken to the journal who go to Disney regularly and speak about their experiences. It's a really good piece. As someone who does work in journalism, I do feel slightly dirty, bypassing a paywall in this way. But look, it is what it is. If you want to read this, however you want to read this, I would recommend you do. It is a good write up. So that's that. Now, a slightly awkward pivot because it's time to get excited, Josh, about Disney announcements.
Oh, can you believe it?
D23 starts on September the 9th, so it's coming up very soon here. And they've announced kind of the full timetable. Just briefly kind of highlight the ones that are going to be of most interest to theme park weirdos like ourselves. And they are mostly falling on Sunday, September 11th. So these are all local time. This is taking place in California. So at 10:30 a.m., you're going to get A Boundless Future, Disney Parks, Experiences and Products. Then at 1 in the afternoon, you're going to get Walt Disney Imagineering, 70 years of making the impossible possible. And those are the two main ones, I would say, for theme park fans to take note of. Just briefly, Josh, what kind of stuff are you hoping for in terms of announcements or updates on things that we know about already?
I guess I don't expect there to be anything big. I think they've got a lot going on already, and everything takes forever. It takes longer than Crossrail or HS2 to build things at Disney these days. So I don't think there'll be any big new attractions or areas or anything like that coming. But yeah, I expect kind of updates on Epcot, updates on Tron, and kind of smaller things like that, things that are already in the works. Maybe some new. I'm not sure if there's any new nighttime celebrations or anything like that coming along, or holiday celebrations or anything like that coming. I think it's sort of be around those sorts of ideas mainly for me.
Yeah, I would hope to get an opening sort of window at least for Tron at Magic Kingdom. I would hope to see some stuff about the Epcot renovations and a clearer idea of what that's going to look like and when that's going to be done. That would be good as well. And yeah, I wouldn't necessarily get my hopes up for entirely new attractions being announced for any of the parks, quite frankly. They've all gone through a decent amount of change in the last sort of 5-10 years. So yeah, I'm not quite sure whether or not we should expect anything particularly massive. But yeah, hopefully some reasonable updates on stuff that we do already know about.
Yeah.
I've got this timetable, by the way, from Theme Park Insider. They're going to be doing some live coverage of those theme park specific panels, so they might be worth checking out on the day if you're not there and want to keep up with what's going on. I don't know, if Disney stream these out or not. I must admit, I'm not too sure. I think you can watch them, or you have been able to watch them in the past, but I don't know if you have to pay, if you have to be some sort of like virtual attendee, right? Like I do know
Yeah.
that some of these things do sometimes require that, so perhaps they won't be completely free. But okay, there is a link actually in this article which suggests that you will be able to watch them online at d23expo.com. So yeah, maybe have a look at that on the day. Or perhaps I'll watch it. We could do a talk over,
A talk over. Love it.
live analysis.
I'm here for it, Tom.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's a very Disney heavy show today. We've got another Disney line here. This regards Disneyland Paris, however.
Or a lack of a Disney line, you could say.
Oh, yeah. This is from Salon Mickey, which is a great name for a blog, I must say.
Yeah.
So Eurostar has announced that its direct Disneyland Paris train service from London St Pancras will be suspended indefinitely after the 5th of June 2023. Eurostar have been, they've not at all got close to resuming full service since the pandemic.
Yeah.
For us here in lovely Kent in the UK, it's been felt very keenly indeed, because there were two big international stations here in Kent which were served by Eurostar, one in Ashford and one at Ebbsfleet. And Eurostar has indicated that they will not be returning there until at least 2025, which is wild. I mean, just say you're never coming back, all right? There's no need to have these ridiculously far-fetched, dates.
When will British Rail or whoever runs the Network Rail maybe accept defeat and rename the stations to just Ebbsfleet and Ashford?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's pretty crazy. It's a real shame that is the case for those two particular stations. But you wouldn't have expected it from to affect St Pancras, would you? I mean, you would have considered this line kind of sacred. I mean, of course, they're saying, hey, look, there are other ways to do it. You can get the Eurostar from St Pancras into somewhere else and transfer and still get there. But again, this is kind of an example of what we've been talking about with how corporations are kind of navigating these tough financial times. It is ultimately to do things which have a negative impact on their customers, but they try and sort of package it up and sell it with excuses and reasons that ultimately their customers don't care about, because all we can see is you taking things away, and with no benefit to the people that actually use your services. So
yes, so it looks like the best option if you're coming from the UK would be to get the ticket that takes you from Eurostar from St Pancras to Lille, and then you get the TGV from there to Marne-la-Vallée, Chessy. That would be the best option. If you go into Gare du Nord, you have to then get the metro, which is a pain in the arse. So you're better off getting the route that goes via Lille to get to Disneyland Paris.
Right, cool. That's good to know. There is a glimmer of hope, Salon Mickey reports, that the service might resume in 2024. Eurostar are going to review the decision next year, which I guess will mean, well, how do their balance sheets look? How much demand is there for us to bring this back? Has it had a negative impact on passenger numbers or not? I'd imagine those are the kinds of things they'll be looking at when making the decision as to whether or not to bring it back.
Yeah.
There is a slightly longer statement, which I thought I'd read, which specifically regards Ebbsfleet and Ashford. They say, we can confirm that Eurostar services will not stop at Ebbsfleet or Ashford international stations in 2023. We cannot make any commitment for another 2 to 3 years. Our recovery is progressing well, but we have considerable financial commitments following the pandemic, which we will continue to face for a number of years. And I had to read this out because I'll never skip an opportunity to take a dig at this wonderful post-Brexit future we are experiencing. Our border environment has also toughened post-Brexit, and further complexity is expected with the launch of the EU's entry-exit system. Yada, yada, yada.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what the EU's entry-exit system is, to be honest.
I don't know either, to be fair. But look, like I say, I'm a bitter man, and I will not miss an opportunity to point out the ways in which Brexit has made the vast majority of people's lives worse. So there you go.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, we're going to skip on over to, I guess, the rumour mill, sort of, to round out the show. And as is often the case with the rumour mill, it means going over to Orlando Park Stop for Alicia Steller's latest update on Epic Universe. So this is a very, very in-depth write-up. I didn't want to go through the whole thing because I would encourage you to just go and read it, frankly. And there are some fantastic aerial shots as well, which I think have been provided by BioReconstruct, which is an excellent Twitter account that I, again, recommend you follow if you're not already. But I specifically just wanted to briefly talk about the arrival of Roller Coaster Track from Mack. Mack being the German company, Josh, which owns and operates Europa Park, right?
Whoa, yeah, been there.
We have. The travel vlogs from Europa Park are up on the Park Rush YouTube channel, so do go and watch those if you haven't already. Fantastic park with some fantastic rides, so always excited to see what Mack are up to, not just at its own parks, but also what it's doing for others. And it seems like the track that has arrived most recently here is for this rumored kind of dueling racing coaster, which is going to be in the central hub of the park. So this is interesting because it's something that we haven't really seen before in Florida. This idea of kind of I guess for the closest. I mean, again, it's unclear because we're basing this fully on kind of rumors for the most part as to what exactly the makeup of this park is going to be. Remember, a few years ago there were all these rumors about there being maybe separate tickets available for individual lands and things like that. Like, are you going to have to pay even to get into the central hub? Is it more of a city walk than a Main Street USA? All that stuff is very unclear at the moment. But this coaster is seemingly is going to be part of this hub area rather than one of the kind of themed lands, Potter, How to Train Your Dragon, Nintendo, etc.
Yeah.
So, based on the concept art, it's a big old beast. What you hoping for from this in particular, Josh? I mean, based on this article, it sounds like it could well be kind of the marquee roller coaster.
Yeah, I'm. It's going to be cool. It's an interesting concept if some of the rumors that we've heard are true that this you have this central hub, of all the different lands coming off of, and having a racing coaster is going to be awesome. I do love dueling coasters. It's a shame when the Dragon rides departed. Obviously, Hagrid is very much beloved now at this point, but having a dueling coaster, racing coaster back is always going to be good. And it's going to be this interesting concept where is this going to be like an area that anyone can access for publicly free, and so this ride's going to just be like a kind of a taster, little teaser of what else is there in the park, like in the themed lands, or if is it going to be a ticketed area, the central hub, and so this is just part of that, and you have to pay to get in anyway. But yeah, having all of these themed lands, but then having one ride that is just about experiencing just a great coaster is going to be good.
Yeah. Just a few stats here that Alicia reckons. So obviously it's a 2-track coaster, multi-launch. She reckons it's going to be. Each track estimated to be more than 5,000 feet long, could reach speeds as high as 70 miles an hour, which is going to put it in that kind of Velocicoaster bracket.
It's quick.
So that's exciting as well. I think Mack Rides, Alicia's pretty sure anyway, are going to be working on a couple of rides at Epic Universe. This isn't the only one. It seems like they may well also be providing a coaster for the Classic Monsters Land. They're obviously a company that Universal likes working with and trust to deliver some good coasters. So yeah, there's so much about Epic Universe that I can't wait to find out more about. Obviously, I think everyone who pays attention to articles like this now probably knows what the lands are going to be, but it will still be exciting when those are officially announced. And then, yeah, just how this whole park is kind of going to operate and work from a ticketing perspective is something that I'm quite intrigued by as well. So, yeah, can't wait to find out more. But of course, not opening, it seems, until 2025. So, yeah, plenty of time to wait still. But hopefully it comes up fairly quickly. It's nice to have something like this to look forward to in these pretty miserable times.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, that's your lot for In the Loop this week. Hope you enjoyed. We'll be back next week with another helping of theme park news, and this will be the last week, I think, for the foreseeable. Hopefully, that will be doing double duty on the main podcast feed, because of course next week you can look forward to Josh's mum and dad feeding back on their Florida trip, and yeah, depending on how long or how much feedback they have, how exhaustive their note taking was. Maybe that will end up being a couple of episodes. We'll wait and see, I suppose. But for sure, there's plenty of good stuff to come on the main podcast feed in the next few weeks and months between that and then all our trip reports from the aforementioned European theme park road trip. So do subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already to make sure you don't miss those. Here on YouTube, of course, In the Loop will be back next week. We've also got the travel vlogs from the road trip going up every week. And yeah, the occasional theme park video game nonsense as well. All the other places you can find Park Rush is at links.parkrush.com, Twitter, TikTok, etc. So do have a look there too. And if you want to get in touch with the show, leave a comment down below or email us, podcast@parkrush.com. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Stay safe out there. Goodbye.
See ya.